the next 40-45 minutes, we should have completed all the presentations from all the zones. So I will be starting with North Central. I think I'll be going alphabetically. So do we have North Central right here in the auditorium? So they'll be telling us why they're hosting us and why we should take them seriously in terms of the various interventions they have for us. So thank you very much.
I think I'm representing North Central of Nigeria, which comprises of Kwara State, Niger State, Benue State, Plateau State, I think we have 5 states that are here. That is Kwara State, Plateau State, Abuja, Nasarawa, and Niger State. As everybody knows here, North Central is the food basket of Nigeria. Aside from the land size of the North Central, the export programs. So the first part of it is that's a value addition, that is production, processing, and marketing. What we mean by this is that most of our products, most of them are being exported in raw form like that. So the North Central intend to process it so that we have a value addition to that product. If we are able to do that, we're able to make more money out of it rather than exporting it raw like that. And we're able to create job creation for the teeming population in the North Central. The second one is a creation of an apex body that will handle this specific share activities. In Kwara State, I think if you have a body now that is handling the share border, we intend to add value to it rather than exporting in a raw form like that. The third item is a specialized storage system. That is we intend to build on that so that most of these post-harvest loss will be minimized. The fourth one is the conversion of airport in Jos so that we allow international investors to come in and come and do business in this aspect of product. The fourth one is a discussion and establishment of code ops. So I think there's a partnership between the development partner and the Jos. They intend to build on this one so that they will have a storage facility to store most of the products. The fourth one is set up a committee to address specific export development challenges which is facing the North Central. We have so many challenges in that respect. If we are able to do this one, we are going to reduce it to the PRS minimum. The fifth one is security of facility. That's a 3.3 billion loan for potato value addition development. The sixth one is a collaboration with the development partners to identify type of potato to be used for export market. And the sixth one is the Kwara State One-Stop Investment Center. What we mean by this is that recently Kwara State government created a Kwara State investment promotion agency so that it will be an avenue for us to interact with the market outside Nigeria. The last one is the promotion of entrepreneurship development through the state council and the micro, small, medium enterprises. So these are the gaps noticeable in the North Central and the challenges. The first one is a poor infrastructure, that is power and road. We believe that if you are able to have a good road network to the rural area, most of the agri-produce move from the farmer settlement to city, from there to be exported to outside Nigeria. The second one is a low quality of the product. So we are working seriously in respect of this development partner to enhance the quality of the product being produced in the North Central. The third one is a lack of accreditation and testing lab, especially for agro products. This one is necessary in order to meet international standards. There are standards that someone must meet before you can export your product to outside the country. So that's why you intend to do that. The fourth one is a lack of adequate funding. That's where we have a critical problem in respect of funding most of these things. There is a shortage, insufficient fund. So we expect that if you are able to have access to affordable finance, you are good to go in that respect so that most of the people, small holding and commercial farmer, will have access to funding to fund their products. The next one is the inability of access market. We are having that because of and I think with the commencement of this African Continental Free Trade Area at least the market is there for Nigeria. And then Central is going to utilize, take all advantage of that market in order to export the product. The fifth one is a storage facility. That's the problem we are facing, particularly in the agriculture sector. Most of we have a difficulty installing the agri-produce, and most of them get wasted along the line. The next one is insecurity. Everybody knows what is happening in Nigeria now. We have a problem of insecurity, particularly the insurgency and the bandits. Most of the people will not be able to go to the farm now, except you pay ransom, you pay certain amounts of money to the bandit before you can be allowed to go to farm. As a result of that one, we are having problem with the food security. The last one is the obsolete technology. Most of the technology being used before is obsolete. We tend to have a fund so that we'll be able to get the state-of-art equipment in order to enhance the productivity. So the next step in the case of NAC Central is to align the program with the development plan so that we'll be able to access African market. The next one is a rollout policy on share. I think most of the states in the North Central are trying to evaluate and review the present policy in order to have a sustainable one so that this particular item, that is share. Presently, Nigeria is the largest producer of share, but share in the whole world. We produce about 400 metric tons in the world, in Nigeria. So it makes us to be the first in the area of share. So the third one is the leverage on you say that is a development partner in the USA, so that to give incentive to the investors. The next item is a develop linkages and coordinate entrepreneur through trade exhibitions. I think recently there was a trade fair in South Africa. I think most of the states are thinking of they took opportunity of that to showcase what they have in store for the African market. The next one is a public enlightenment on sport promotion and development programs. I think we are doing that in North Central, and we expect that when we are able to exploit this angle, we'll be able to showcase our product to the outside world. The next one is a focus on strategic export development pillars. That is price, quality, sustainability, traceability, consistency, and availability. The last one is a develop monitoring and evaluation framework to ensure program objectives are met. The monitoring and evaluation is a feedback for whatever activity we have done. So this is a very key area because it gives us the feedback, and we are able to get the feedback, we're able to know where to improve, particularly in the area of our strength. And thank you. God bless everybody.
And the fact that we're still going to have this session tomorrow as well as on Thursday, so we still have a lot of time to flesh that, and I guess maybe questions will be dealt with later. So thank you very much. Once again, a round of applause for you. So at the time we're meeting tomorrow again, in our various breakout sessions, we're going to be fleshing this out and be looking at various implementation strategies and the sort of things we want to be doing. I mean, you take them and you look at the ones that are, I mean, in the context of, present economic realities, which of these ones can we rank and say we really want to follow up on? So that's what we're going to be looking at tomorrow. I guess when we're discussing the various implementation strategies for states and how AfCFTA can actually support the state. So I will be going to the next zone, Northeast.
The question I have is every state in the North Central doing this? I would think that it would be better to see who's doing what in these areas. And then the second question I'll ask is there any form of, are there commonalities in what the states are doing? Are there any form of interaction? So perhaps we can explore this further tomorrow, but it's important to, even as we're talking about zones, each state needs to see itself. You understand? So if the others can build on this fine, but otherwise it's fine.
We need to take back to our various groups. When we're talking about this, perhaps we can come up with examples of the states where these things are currently happening. So you can share sort of experience around it, and then if there are unique things that are being done by each of the states and there are various commonalities, maybe Kwara State is doing something that Niger State is doing as well, and they can start thinking about how do we leverage, who is doing things better, what are the things we can gain from what the other states are doing. So I guess we should sort of like think about this and approach it that way in our various units tomorrow. So please, I would like to call on Northeast. Northeast is ready, okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mohammed Bukar Umar. I'm the Managing Director of Borno Investment. Borno is one of the 6 states of the Northeast, comprising of Bauchi, Adamawa, Taraba, Gombe, and Yobe states. The northeastern part of this country constitutes about 1/5 of the entire land mass of Nigeria, with about between 30 to 36 million population estimated. Actually, 2011 estimate of population is we have about 25 million people in the Northeast. Now, what we did was we looked at our various areas of strengths. One was the region itself, of which recently the governors came up with the idea of encouraging free flow of people, goods and services by agreeing to establish a Northeast Regional Airline. That is one of the initiatives that the state governors of the Northeast did. The second general initiative was the establishment of the Northeast Development Commission. As you all know, we submitted our request to the National Committee on the implementation of this one state, one product, headed by His Excellency Governor Badro Jigawa. We submitted that what we need is the establishment of the processing plant for the export of gum arabic, which is required. The market, as it were, is still in Borno, in spite of the inside Chad and the neighboring Niger. That is one area. The other aspect which we looked at in Gombe, for instance, we have a shared facility in Fruit tomato producing company. That company used to be up and doing before recession took most part of its activities. Now what we did was we need to come back, agree on ways of bringing back that factory into production. Most of the time the tomato is being produced in Gombe, but the factory actually is located around the area. So there has been for collaboration on that. With Yobe and Borno, there's a nightly shoe factory and tannery. This is one of the largest, in fact it's the only surviving tannery in the entire Northeast. Normally we used to receive packets of hides and skin for processing. Either you do it in Borno or you take it to Kano. These are the only options that we have. And the shoe factory too has we still have a common facility with Yobe, which is the Nguru oil mills and the meat processing factory. The Nigerian Foods Company, I'm not sure if most of us are aware of this factory. It used to exist some 55 years ago. It started before the Civil War, and the activities of the Nigerian Civil War affected its production, and they closed down shop around 1971. But the factory is still there, and there are efforts to get private-public partnerships, engagement for us to restart the factory. These are areas that I will look at these states. Now let me just add to this. While doing the breakout session, we realized that Adamawa and Taraba were not represented. We didn't have any representative, so we cannot say much on what Taraba and Adamawa have. But the 4 states that met, I think Bauchi will talk of the National Livestock Transformation Project, of which they have made available about 126,000 hectares for the livestock. Well, the other aspect to do with the initiative which we brought out is Yobe as a cargo airport, which we intend to leverage on in terms of exposing the potentials of the states. Likewise, we have the free trade zone, the market at Banki. Like I said, Borno is bordering about 3 countries, Niger, Republic, Chad, and the Cameroon. So there's a free market zone there. Yobe is planning to establish one along the border. These are the areas we discussed, and we noted some challenges which is common to most of the states. One is the issue of security, the other is infrastructure deficit in terms of roads, electricity, and what have you. Then we have issue of access to loans. Then shared information, collaboration among the states is very low. So what we did was we emphasized on the need for us to improve on our collaboratory approaches, especially with the establishment of the Northeast Development Commission. And I think that's all for now. Thank you so much.
On collaboration, I mean, even from your breakout sessions, you can start having these collaborative activities together. And I think based on the comments made by Francis on the last presentation, we're able to see examples of states, I mean, within the geopolitical zone. So we just want to encourage you, as you started today from your breakout groups, we'd like it to continue. And hopefully tomorrow, then you subject some of the things you've stated here into real tests, into, I mean, things that are low-hanging fruits. What are the ones you really want to achieve now? And what sort of support do you need from the collaborative efforts of the various states within the zone? So we'll go to the next zone, which is Northwest. Do we have their representatives ready? Northwest. That's where we have Kaduna, Kano, Sokoto states. So a round of applause for the representative of Northwest. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. I think before the slides come up, I'll kick off from where the last presenter stopped, talking about collaborations. If I may say, Kaduna and Kano have a very good collaborative arrangement. For example, where associations and cooperatives, showcase their products. So they have what we call like a mini trade fair. Both states, exchange invitations across, so that when the time comes, those in Kano would bring in their products to Kaduna State, and those in Kaduna State would take their products to Kano to showcase at the trade fair. So we have that collaboration. Unfortunately, the Northwest is only represented by Kaduna and Kano. Katsina, Sokoto, Zamfara, and Kebbi have gone MIA. I'm sure for very good reasons. All right, next slide, please. So, these are some of the developmental programs both states have. In Kaduna State, we have two strong agencies that are looking out to support businesses in the state. We have the Kaduna Investment Promotion Agency, KADIPA, which most of you must have heard about. CAD Invest. We've done 1 to 6, so it's all about bringing investors to Kaduna State. And we have the Kaduna Enterprise Development Agency, which is an agency set up to support micro, small, and medium enterprises in the state. And in Kano, they have what we call they usually rely on the Kano Chambers of Commerce to reach out to their businesses, and through that they've set up a village called the Kano Export Village. Is it? Yes, Kano Export Village, where they aggregate some of their products, and those cooperatives and associations come there to showcase the products, and they're being guided on how to export these products. So in Kaduna and Kano, Kaduna, for example, we've identified certain products. We have ginger, we have tomatoes, and there are state-owned enterprises that run, that have been set up to actually look into different key areas of what the state has that can be promoted or exported to international markets. So, but mainly we've looked at ginger in Kaduna State. There's a Kache ginger factory, which has been set up by the state government and has been recently, sold off to an investor who would revive and revamp the company. So the value chain again is what they've looked at along ginger. There are so many things that can be done with ginger, and that's one of the reasons the state said, look, we need investors that would come and give us a 5 to 10 year plan on what they will do with those companies that we're going to sell. Then I'm sure you must have heard of Olam as well, and tomato juice. So these are just some of the businesses, and the products that are coming out from Kaduna State for exportation. Now, the state going forward is trying to create like a market hub where most of these products will be put, So if anyone is looking for products, exportable products within the state, there's a one-stop shop that you would go, and all the products are there. And government is trying to liaise with Standards Organization of Nigeria, NAFDA, so that they have within the common facility center they are going to set for these products, they are going to have a unique and unified code, like NAFDA number for them, so that these products are already certified and ready for exportation with Standards Organization of Nigeria as well. Next slide, please. Right, Kano State, the environment is secured. They have the groundnut pyramids and they have the grains market, which is the largest in West Africa. So whatever grains you want is in Kano. So you can move there to locate and then see how it can be packaged properly for exportation. In terms of ease of doing business, Kaduna, I think, is ranked, I think just after Gombe or so, if I'm not mistaken. Gombe is number 1 and Kaduna is probably number 2 in terms of ease of doing business. Like I said, there have been collaborations between the states, and both states have dry inland ports. Kaduna was just recently launched about 2-3 years ago, and Kano have had a dry inland port for quite a long time now. And this is just so that we ease, the movement of products from out of these states, to other states as well as other countries as well. Next slide, please. Right, we all know the pyramids in Kano. They have gone, but the productivity is still there. We are still doing it. Kano is well known for hide and skin. I think the last presenter mentioned that, only in the northwest and the northeast in Maiduguri. Well, they have the West African grain market, and Kano is known for rice milling as well. They farm it and then they mill it as well. And they've identified that 75% of the rice mills in Nigeria are situated in Kano. Sesame seed as well, they're into that as well. And Kano State has a value addition to product initiative, like sesame seeds. They're being packaged and being shipped out to countries, mostly the Middle East, for consumption. Next slide. Right, some of these challenges, have been mentioned before. And of course, we know the issues of repayment of loan. For example, in Kaduna State, where a matching fund was done between Bank of Industry and Kaduna State, people come and access these loans and payment becomes this loan. Kano has done well in terms of certification. They have a quarantine department under the ministry, have done well, and I'm sure if Kebbi and the other states in Northwest are here, there'll probably be 1 or 2 collaborations. Thailand, and I think India, they come for to offtake the products. Like I've mentioned, the dry ports, Kano and Kaduna have dry ports, just to ease the movement of the produce from the states going out. Thank you very much.
For that presentation. And I think one of the things we should also be looking at, we're talking about collaboration across Africa. We should also be thinking about collaboration within ourselves. If there are some states or some zones that are doing things that we think would be value addition to us, even if we're in other geopolitical zones, I think we can actually be taking a cue from them and thinking about discussing them in our various zones, because I've seen quite a lot of initiatives that have been discussed by Northwest. So, but again, as we continue discussion around this initiative, we're probably going to be subjecting them to some test around which ones of this do we really want to go for now and which ones we want to go for later. So thank you very much for that presentation. Please, a round of applause for the Northwest zone once again. Now, I think we've covered all the northern states, all the northern zones. Do we have a representative of Southeast? Are you here and are you ready for a presentation?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ifedi Aramobi from Ansipa, Anambra State. Okay, yes, well. Okay. With about 3.2% of Nigeria's landmass, 3.2%. That's the whole southeast. So that tells you how small we are as a state, or as a zone. That when we are ranked, 15 states in Nigeria are larger than the southeast put together land-wise. I guess that's probably why Mr. President referred to us as the dot. Here, unfortunately, we didn't have Abia State present, but we had Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu, and Imo State. And within the southeast, because we are all together and we are very small and we're just 5 states, there are lots of commonalities. So when we look at, we're all rural states, we're all agro or agrarian states. We all grow maize, we all grow cocoyam, we all grow rice, we all grow yams. So in terms of agriculture, there are very, very few products that are unique to one state versus another one. For instance, Enugu State has cashews, and cashew products, goes across the state more than the rest of the other southeastern states. Okay, so we have some current comparative advantages like I talked about. Most of them agricultural products. Most of the states grow most of these products. A state like Anambra, for instance, has an advantage in automobile. I mentioned cashew, Enugu State. Oil palm, Imo State, has a bit more of that, as well as Enugu has ICT. Tourism, Imo State also, Anambra State, most of the states also. And then we have 2 major airports in the state, Anambra and Imo cargo airports. And of course, we have linkage to all the other states. We collaborate a bit more with the southern states and the north-central states because they actually are the 2 zones that surround the southeast. In terms of export initiatives, we try to do quite a lot. Because we are very, very enterprising in the southeast, a lot of what we do, agriculture-wise, manufacturing-wise, we tend to also take advantage of the infrastructure that we have to encourage exports. It's a long shopping list here, and I won't go through all of them because of time, but you will notice that we have applied and we have also gotten things like agricultural zones, special agricultural zones, free trade zones, exist in the 9th mile area of Enugu State, and then some new ones are going to come up in some other states in the southeast. We have various initiatives. Ubazono initiative is something that we discussed intensively within our group, and this is a result of the COVID-19, which at the time there was limited movement and people were encouraged to develop farms, small farms, grow tubers in sacks, grow vegetables in small containers in their backyards, and it helped during the pandemic. These are some of the things that are being developed at the moment. ICT hubs. The Eastern Northern Nigeria Trade Corridor is actually an initiative that is going to come up and will encourage a lot of exportation. This is Kaduna State. Next slide. Okay, thank you. So some of our challenges. One of the things that came up during our discussion was that there was a lot of focus on goods for export and less on services. And we thought that should actually be a combination of both. We should actually focus more on goods and services, not just goods. We have funding limitations. That goes without saying. It's probably a national problem also. And then there's a negative attitude towards patronizing locally made goods. Most times, it's unfortunate that we didn't have Abia State because they are very, very strong in leather, footwear, products like that, and they export them. But we have this thing about branding. We say it's made in Aba, so we go and buy foreign products. But those made in Aba products are very, very high quality, sought after products along the West African corridor, and we should change our mindset and start patronizing our locally made goods. Lack of storage facilities is also a big challenge for us. Of course, logistics. Yes, for those of you who fly, for instance, Enugu to Asaba, going through Anambra, that's half a day's journey. Road networks, we don't have rail in the southeast. There are so many things that we actually require. The Onitsha River Port, we hope and pray that the federal government should at least let us develop that. That will go a long way in expanding the export potential of the southeast and Nigeria in general. Irrigation, storage facilities, and of course, insecurity. Things are improving now, but we know how it was about 2 months ago, thereabout. Next slide. I think that should be next. Okay, these few slides just highlight on a state-by-state basis, which I've talked about some of these things anyway when I explained the zone and just used the states as examples. So this is for Anambra State, some of the challenges, initiatives, and the comparative advantages that state faces. Some prioritized areas. Next one. Ebonyi State. If you notice some of the same products. There's a free trade zone in Afibo that is actually going on, and then they have this. This is actually very, very going to be big. Ebonyi State wants to develop medical tourism, and so they are in the process of developing a medical export processing zone and a shopping mall for export-based MSMEs. And of course, some of the challenges that we talked about. Next state. Enugu State. Okay, Enugu State. Pretty much some of the same things. Ladani rice, quite big, good for exports. And then this trade corridor, ICT, etc. Challenges, same things, infrastructure and logistics, basically. And then the final state is Imo State. Yeah. So Imo State, comparative advantage, some of these things also, tourism and the rest, solid minerals, natural minerals, the enterprise development system in Imo, the 3 free trade zones, industrial parks, industrial clusters, and then some of the same challenges that everybody else within the zone faces. So thank you very much. Oh, okay, sorry. Some cross-cutting issues. Just final slide, 30 seconds. What do we need? Yes, we don't have global gap certifications and fair trade certification. And this is actually a national problem. This has to be solved at the federal level. Without these certifications, we will not be able to export our agricultural products. Within Anambra State, for instance, we have been exporting vegetables. But we know the challenges that we face when we export our vegetables, yams, and so on. We need to train, we need to know exactly what export market requires. And of course, we work on our ease of doing business, which is one of the reasons why we're still ranked not as high as we should be. Thank you very much.
I saw the things being done in, is it Afipo? That's Ebonyi State. So I had to think back because I did my youth service in Ebonyi State, specifically Afipo, Etitieda village. So, and I was thinking, looking at the various, commodities we had then. So I wasn't sort of like surprised seeing all the things being done in the Southeast. Despite the many challenges you have, I think it's great to see the various initiatives. And I think on the last slide, things around certification, and that's why we're here, where we're discussing some of these issues, and then it's good that you're amplifying some of them where you need the support, maybe at the federal level. And I'm sure by the time we go to our various zones again tomorrow, then we should be defining some of these things in terms of what sort of things we want to see for states. How does success look like? I mean, in the next 5 years, 10 years, what sort of pictures are we constructing on our minds with respect to these various initiatives? Because we don't want to do this again in 5 years and then it's still going to remain at the level of initiatives. By then, there should have been some action or steps to take them forward. So I'll go to the next zone now, which is South-South. That's the penultimate zone. Do we have the representative of South-South ready for us? Thank you very much. You have 5 minutes for your presentation, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, distinguished participants. My name is Olorugu Loki Oganamoro. I'm representing the zone. Unfortunately, only Akwa Ibom and Delta State attended, but we have the same geography. So it's my hope that what we're going to present will represent the zone. Next slide. The geography of the South-South is well known, and the oil palm, Delta State is in the oil palm zone. And most states, it is a zone. They have weather and soil conditions that are favorable for the cultivation of oil palm and cassava. Of course, being South-South, the place is well drained with rivers, and also coastal states that have access to the sea. So aquaculture is a natural occupation. Therefore, we can say at this stage that not only do we have competitive advantage for these items, we also have competitive advantage in the sense that if you attempt to grow any of these crops in areas that are not suitable, you'll not be able to have the same yield. Tourism and the creative industry is natural to the people. It's just the chemistry of the people that they are very creative. Most of the comedians are from the area. Most of the actors are also from the area. So it's no wonder that tourism and creative industry is actually booming in the area. As you know, this area, especially Delta State, is fast becoming the Nollywood headquarters of Nigeria. Most of the films are being produced in that locality. Next. Ongoing initiatives in the area. Delta State is involved in major oil palm cultivation. Apart from the existing oil palm plantations by Presco and IMC, Delta State government is very much involved in cultivating new oil palm, involving many, about 71 farming people that have formed these cooperatives. And these farmers that formed the cooperatives, they have within them a land area of about 40,000 hectares. And the entire funding is about 45 billion for the 2 phases. But the government is supporting for phase 1 about 25 billion. So it's a very major project that's going to change the landscape of Delta State to become a major oil palm producing state, to be able to compete effectively in the global oil palm supply chain that we were shown earlier in the day. We are aiming to get a pinch of that huge percentage that is represented in the world oil trade for our state. And the same initiative is also going on at Akwa Ibom. In Delta State, we have Export Development Initiative that is actively engaging exporters who are small, medium-scale exporters, engaging them in upgrading their skills and taking them to the roadmap of getting certification, quality standards, quality control, and quality assurance, and also packaging all the necessary requirements to make them compete internationally, to be able to bring their goods to international stage up to acceptable quality. The export initiative is doing it for a variety of items like fashion wears, footwears and dresses, like crafts, and so many other items that are involved. We also have the initiative to build an enabling environment for export business and other businesses to thrive in Delta State. For example, in the Delta State Agro-Industrial Park at Abo Owashoko, we have facilities that will make businesses to have least cost of operation. The power will be there, water will be there, reserve facilities will be there, administrative buildings, so that you don't need to go and hire your horse for training your staff. And they're all in one location with shared facilities, constant power supply, security. They are short of least cost of doing business. So the Delta State Agro-Industrial Park is one example of Delta State initiative to support the development of agricultural products for export. It's a dedicated industrial park for agro products, and the policy statement makes it as such. So we are looking at rice, plantain, yam, cassava, oil palm, all those other crops apart from those two items that we have mentioned in our book and book of state as our under one state, one product. The ones who are mentioned as our key competitive advantage, that's oil palm and cassava. Apart from that, there are still other ones that can be processed in that area. The Kwale Industrial Park is an example where Delta State, even though we're talking about non-oil business, but at Kwale Industrial Park, we have been able to harness our enormous gas resources. By the way, Delta State has 40% of the nation's gas reserve. We're able to harness our enormous gas reserves to make gas as energy available, so that entrepreneurs that want to locate in Kwale Industrial Park to process goods for export, they have a ready location with low cost of doing business, cheap energy, close to seaport and airports, and to be able to do business in a very competitive way, to be able to compete internationally. So that is the importance of the Kwale Industrial Park. Oil palm marketing and export to Ethiopia. This is particularly initiative of Akwa Ibom. Akwa Ibom, as I said earlier, is in the oil palm producing zone. They have been involved in initiatives to export their oil products, and they have done so successfully to Ethiopia and Uganda. And in that same state, they were able to come up with an idea of having a shop where exporters showcase their product for ease of marketing. Next. In the area of funding, the area of challenges, these are the areas that have been listed. So funding, if we consider the economic strength of Nigerian exporters, they are actually small-scale businesses. So funding is an issue. Logistics, warehousing, and transport is an issue. Especially shipping. Shipping is a big challenge because our experience has been that where we have tried to ship products to Lagos, because of the congestion, especially for agricultural products that are perishable, they have gone bad with very dire consequences for the business. Regulatory certification, insufficient port capacity, inconsistent exchange rate, commercial ban, lack of cooperation to be sold at competitive prices to leverage on Nigerian gas to us, except the foreign cooperatives, they are small. So an idea was proposed for gathering the exporters together through a process called consolidation. You can consolidate people producing similar goods under one roof and to be able to have the power, the muscle, the funding, the logistic capability to be able to meet the export market. The federal government should subsidize cost of acquiring certifications, make available database of target markets to ease market access. There should be commercial attaché in embassies. On the whole, in the last slide, on the whole, I will say that on the issue of funding, government is going to, all states are going to experience it. And states, as we talk, are all facing financial crunch. Therefore, this body should be able to provide a central fund to provide finance for all those that qualify under this initiative. Thank you very much.
It's a tourism hub of the country, and I'm sure that it's one of the states with an active airline that some of us here must have flown before, which is, I mean, goes a long way to show the tourism potential of the state. And something also coming through here is the issue of certification, and I'm sure it's something that's been taken note of in terms of what do we then do if states or if zones are coming up with this sort of challenges. Then we need to tackle it holistically so that it doesn't become issues for us going forward. So I will then call on the last presenter, which is a representative of the Southwest, to then tell us what sort of unique things we should be taking away from the zone, and perhaps other zones should also be looking at replicating some of their initiatives in their subsequent discussions tomorrow and perhaps on Thursday as well.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. There is no hiding for us in Southwest. We stand firm. Each state, Ekiti, Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo. Unfortunately, we didn't have Osun and Ondo represented at the committee today. So we did a SWOT analysis. The committee looked at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But I'll make our presentation very brief. Who's in charge of the slides? Next, please. Who's in charge? Okay, thank you. Okay, we looked at the common things, common efforts that we have as a state. We discussed our economic development plan and what are we doing to help to facilitate exports. In Ogun State and a number of other states, Oyo as well, they're working on the cargo airport. We have special economic zones, free trade zone, we're all aware. In Ogun State, we have the Ogun Gondong Free Trade Zone. We also have another one run by Celplas too. It's a private one, not the Ogun Gondong is in partnership with the state government. The Lagos Free Trade Zone as well. And the second one, like I said, in Ogun is a private owned free trade zone. We also have a trade corridor. We know that Lagos has a lot of ports, land, sea, and air. And in Ogun as well, we're in the Lakaji corridor, which enables movement of goods. We've entered into a number of PPP to help to create infrastructure, which is the enabling environment for businesses in area of road construction. The Ijebu-Ode-Epe road is a toll road, which is in partnership with private sector. Lusada Agbara is a PPP toll road for access to for manufacturing hub in that area for movement of goods. And I know in Lagos as well, there's a number of toll roads as well. With the number of automation of our processes as part of the enabling environment initiative that we have done. Procurement of land in Ogun State, I'll give that example, can be done online now. We launched something called OLANS, which is the Ogun State Land Administration Management System. Registering for your business premises permits can be done online instantly. You make payment, and we're making it even free. And a number of automated processes are also being done across the Southwest as well. Regional collaboration has existed in the Southwest, I'm sure long before I was born, and I'm just 21. We have the Dawn Commission, Development Agenda for Western Nigeria. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. It needs no introduction. We've been working together for the development of Southwestern states. And I'm sure we're all aware that Lagos and Ogun signed the Lagos-Ogun Joint Development Commission. The current administration signed it. We're going to be working together on various initiatives. Products for export, agriculture is a key thing with us in the southwestern state. Ekiti is doing a lot in that area as well. Cassava, vegetable example, coconut, also in poultry. In Ogun State, I can talk about the Erinwe. It's one of the largest fish farm settlements being managed. The Awujale of Ijebu land is the patron of that. It's run by Ijebu Development Initiative for Poverty Reduction Initiative, if I got that right. But it's one of the largest for fish farmers in Ogun State. Mineral resources, I mean, I can boast confidently, all of you that built houses, I probably use Dangote cement or Lafarge, all made in Ogun State, Southwest. So we have the largest mineral resources. Services for export, we all know Lagos has a lot, and Oyo can also talk about services as well. Tourism, healthcare, Ikogosi Warm Spring in Ekiti State is another one that we're all familiar with. We've all had Gosi Water, I think it is, yes, Gosi Water as well. Healthcare, music and art. A lot of us are familiar with Nollywood, and we all know a lot of produced in Ogun State, Abeokuta. Somebody mentioned earlier the challenge of certification, and I'm happy to tell you that we have a solution for that in Southwest. AfCFTA is setting up the first international certification center in Ogun State, which will help to address that. So we bring the solutions. Let's move to the next slide, please. So, I mean, there's a lot that we can talk about here, but we want to be brief, taking responsibility for our shortcomings. Skills is an issue because we want to do big things. So technology aided things. So the skills is important for us to develop. Lack of funding. I mean, we can spend an hour on this, and I'm glad that every speaker has spoken about funding. There just isn't enough. And baseline data. To do all these things, you need data to plan. You need data. In Ogun State, we just had to do an enumeration to understand how many farmers we had, because we took part in the Anchor Borrowers program. We needed to know how many farmers are doing this, how many farmers are doing that. And I know it's a problem across many states, lack of baseline data. And without data, it's difficult to plan. Poor and burdened infrastructure. And I use the word burden carefully. Lagos, I'm sure you would agree with me, has infrastructure, but it's burdened because everybody wants their head office in Lagos, everybody wants presence in Lagos. And we welcome you in the Southwest, but our infrastructure is burdened, is a challenge. I believe that's the last one. Yes. Next steps. We want to identify our regional plans, I think over the next 2 days. Those are things that we'll be working on. And also work on how we can begin to draft our AfCFTA state policies, look at MSMEs development for export in the next 2 days. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
They've actually come with solutions to some of the issues were discussed earlier, and that was why I actually mentioned it, that we should also be looking at what sort of things we can take to our zones so that we can replicate, especially the solution. And I mean, good to know that we're using technology effectively, I mean, to solve some of the various challenges. I mean, we could see that from our presentation and collaboration. I mean, I quite remember from the days of Udua Group in Southwest, they've always had that collaboration, and we're happy to see that technology is being used effectively now in solving some of the challenges. So as we go to our various zones tomorrow and on Thursday, it would be nice for us to start picking some of these things and seeing how we can even collaborate with some of the states outside our zones and picking some of their solutions towards solving issues. So we've had the presentation from all the 6 zones. A wonderful round of applause again for all the presenters and all the participants at the various zones for your active participation. I think we'll be going to the next session now, where I'm going to invite the moderator to introduce our panelists for the next session, which I guess is the penultimate session for the day.
So thanks again to all the representatives of the geopolitical zones. It was indeed a delight to hear from all of you. The various presentations shed light to the various challenges and the various opportunities. But more importantly, one of the key commonalities between the presentations was the need to develop competitive advantage. And of course, to do that, one of the key drivers of that is finance. So I would like to introduce the panelists to the next session of Bank of Industry. Please join us on the stage. Okay, so we have Mr. Hope Yongo, representing the Managing Director of Nexim Bank. We have, okay, so I've just been informed that the Managing Director of Bank of Industry is not around, but it's being represented by Ogo Informa Akabogu. Please, I'm very sorry about the pronunciation. We have Hemensi Arca, representing African Commodities Exchange. And lastly but not least, we have Mr. Emeka Ofo, the Acting Executive Secretary to Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. Who is being represented by Mr. Oladipo Barowa. The moderator for this session is Mr. Tolulope Adeleke, partner, PwC.
Thank you very much, moderator. Because we're pressed for time, so we're trying to see how we could make this quite fast. I know people have actually been here since morning, and we've had the panelists as well. They've actually been around since morning, so we're just going to jump straight into it. And I know this is a session that's sort of like important to us as subnationals. A lot of us, I'm sure we have a lot of initiatives, a lot of programs, a lot of things that we would like to achieve. But without finance, without sufficient funding, it would then be very difficult for us to sort of like actually execute some of these initiatives. Otherwise, they become initiatives for many years to come. So we're going to be talking around how we can increase the access to finance and funding, listening to the various panelists we have and the experts talk around the sort of initiatives and the sort of intervention.
Implementation plan reports of the AfCFTA in terms of what stage is our financial services sector, because what we're trying to do is to deepen that sector, try to create access, sort of like increase the capabilities of, try to increase the capabilities of the various businesses in terms of having access and making them maybe regional and continental players. But of course, you can't do all this if you have a lot of restrictions with respect to your activity. So we know that in Nigeria, SMEs plays a larger part in terms of national employment and all other related activities towards ensuring that we achieve the diversification we're seeking to achieve. And also, I think when the head of the National Action Committee actually made his presentation earlier today, he showed us the 7 cardinal objectives of the AfCFTA, and I actually picked on the third one, which is around access to finance and ensuring we have enabling business environment. So I think I would, sorry, please permit me to call you with respect to your organizations. I'm not sure I was able to pick the names very accurately. So I think I will start with the representative of NECTIM. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, activities and events, interactions, facilitations, and even signing of agreements towards meeting the various objectives of the AfCFTA, which we know that finance is a very critical part. In fact, it serves like a glue that brings everything together. So I would like to ask you, sir, what sort of specific interventions are being done, or what should we expect that you're doing that will promote increased interest, productivity, efficiency for the purpose of growing exports and achieving one of the cardinal objectives of AfCFTA, especially from a subnational point of view, based on the various presentations they've made today in terms of the various initiatives. So what sort of interventions are you having that would promote the achievements of these objectives? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And I extend the apologies of my MD who was here. Essentially, we have 3 intervention programs, and I've listened to the sub-regional presentations, and we have seen some of the challenges, and we have designed intervention frameworks to make sure that we alleviate some of the challenges that are there with solutions. One of the programs that we have to ensure that Nigeria is in a state of readiness for export. And let me just explain. And I'm happy most of the presentation that we saw captured about the issue of industrialization. One of the projects that we are looking at is how do we industrialize, or how do we re-industrialize? Because we have seen moribund projects. How do we get them into spring? Because the bread and butter for Nigerian exports in AfCFTA will be manufactured exports. That is where the market share is, and I think what we need to do is to look at it in the context of how do we industrialize, and where we have moribund industry, how do we re-industrialize, especially for those that are like northeast bordering 3 countries, south bordering a country, southwest bordering 2 countries. So these are northwest bordering 2 countries. These are opportunities for us that we will look at it. And in doing that, we design what we call regional and state export initiative, whereby we will help either regions to come together and provide intervention that can help in that, or states that can identify a product that they want to develop for export. We've signed some MOUs with some states to do that, but we can also do it on a regional basis, whereby that can help in trying to establish or strengthen regional value chains. Secondly, I think is the issue of infrastructure. And I like the way the Southwest mentioned it. Some of our infrastructures are really burdened. How do we bridge those infrastructure gaps to bring about efficiency in our trade? And one of the things that we are looking at is the bank is promoting what we call the Regional Sea Link Project. And the Regional Sea Link Project is to bring about connectivity for Nigeria to actively participate in continental free trade area. And let me just say it upfront so that you appreciate it. Whoever controls logistics control trade. And that's why you find that Nigeria has a lot of Chinese goods in our market, because they control the logistics that have that. So that's what Nigeria wants to do through the Regional Sea Link Project that NECTIM is promoting, so that we can have the connectivity to really engage in African market. And the connectivity in promoting the logistics, maritime logistics, what we are trying to do, there are 2 components of it. We are looking at the coastal trade, which is for intra-African trade. And secondly, we are looking at the internal trade, inland waterways operation for interland trade. If you hear with Nigeria, they will tell you Nigeria has 30-something minerals in commercial quantity, but technically speaking, nobody reckons with Nigeria as a solid mineral country, because we don't produce and trade solid minerals. And one of the constraints of solid minerals is that solid minerals are bulk commodities. And we don't have capacity to move bulk commodities. And that's why we are doing the inland waterways. And tomorrow we'll be in Ajakuta, whereby the Chief of Naval Staff will be flagging of what we started, promoted by Nexum and AfCFTA for the survey and charting of Lower River Niger. And the idea is to make sure that we have a navigational chart that will bring navigational safety so that you can move bulk commodities by barges. And that can be extended to other areas that have inland waterways. And once we have that, we're happy to announce that the government has approved that sealing take over the Ajakuta port. And we have started the upgrade of Ajakuta port. So hopefully by Q1, you begin to see activities that will move bulk commodities, hinterland, and for coastal trade. And you may ask, why are we doing that? Let me just give you an example. We have a customer in the bank that has applied for the past 5 years. He needed some money to be moving coal. But because of lack of logistics, he can't move the coal. He has an order to be moving 1 million tons of coal to Ghana. He can't move it because no trailers can do that. If you are moving 1 million tons of coal, you are talking about 34 to 35,000 trailers on the roads. That's not logistically possible, and that's why you need barges that can be moving them in that bulk. If you have a 1,000 barge, that's the equivalent of 35 trailers on the route. So you need to have those barges in those 1,000, and hopefully in the first 3 years of operation of inland waterways, we have already executed an agreement with the shipyard, and we are willing to deploy up to 50 barges that will be doing the inland waterways. The idea is that they will move the inland waterways, and we have Burutu port as a solid mineral port that have capacity to take 3 million tons. It's being upgraded currently, and with that you can move solid minerals. So that's on the issue of logistics, how to bridge that. And we intend to get to other areas, and I think my sister from the southwest mentioned about cement in Ogun. We're also looking at Yua River so that can be moved, and instead of moving the cement by the trucks, you can be moving them by barges along the waterways. Then the third aspect of it is the issue of finance, and I think that's the issue that everybody is asking. And one of the things that we have seen is that access to finance will remain a challenge. Intervention funding are coming, but they are not in the volume that will help. And mind you, the bulk of traders, especially that will come under the intra-African trade, are SMEs. SMEs are challenged to access to finance. And one of the things that we are looking at to bridge that access to finance by SMEs is the promotion of factoring services. And the idea of the factoring service is to make sure that SMEs has access to funding where they have receivables so that they can have those funding without collateral. The bill is already in the National Assembly. The Senate has had the first reading of it. But what we are engaging with the Central Bank and other stakeholders and development partners so that we can strengthen our regulations. And when our regulations are strengthened, at least we can have factoring services. What factoring services does is that let me just illustrate so that you appreciate. Let's assume you are somebody that supplied Dangote with limestone. So Dangote gives you an LPO. But because you are SMEs, you can supply Dangote with 1 trailer of LPO. Dangote will now give you an invoice and say, okay, I will pay you in 30 days. But you cannot do other business because you don't have sources of funds. But where there is a factoring, a factor will come to you that has that trailer. Let's assume limestone you supply Dangote as an SME is 100,000. So somebody will come to you and say, okay, while you are waiting for the invoice for Dangote for 100,000 that will be paid in 30 days or 45 days, I'll give you 98,000. You go ahead, collect the money. It is mine as a factor. So I'll factor that your receivables. I'll give you 98,000 or 99,000. You go and continue your business. And the factor will now collect the money from Dangote whenever that money is available. What that does is that it enhances your turnover. That means that if you are doing just 1 transaction a month with Dangote, you may have the capacity to do 4 in a month. So that means instead of having a turnover of 100,000, you may be having a turnover of 400,000. So that will enhance access to finance for SMEs. So that's just what these are the 3 initiatives that we'll be doing that the bank is promoting. And hopefully, in fact, by next week we are also engaging with the central bank so that they will fast track the issuance of a guidelines for factoring because it's a financial services and we want it on a sustainable basis. So these are the three things that NEC is doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll be, picking some of the solutions to some of the issues we had. In fact, I read in one of the reports earlier was it yesterday or earlier today, about the same factory as well being done by some of the regional developmental financial institutions. So I'll quickly go to the next speaker because we're trying to see how we can wrap this up in the next 10 minutes or thereabout. That's a representative from NIPC, that's Mr. Barua. So the question I'm going to ask you is, how can we reduce dependence on imports and consequent demand for FX and increase the supply of local substitutes? What role should NIPC be looking at playing in the AfCFTA value chain, and how do we incentivize access to finance to grow and increase made in Nigeria products and services, and how would that ultimately affect the subnational authorities? You can just do that in 2-3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I want to first of all appreciate this gathering, this workshop, I would say. I love the concept. It's all about building sub-regional competitiveness by sharing our ideas at the state level and build competitiveness at regional level. It's a fantastic thing that can promote investment into the regions and likewise enhance the competitiveness of each state at the regional level. Talking about how do we enhance our capacity for exports, especially how do we enhance our capacity to export into Africa. Basically, Nigeria is an agricultural state. Most of our produce are agri-based, and as it has been mentioned, logistics is a huge challenge for us to move those agricultural produce from their states into the market. And even getting to the market at agro produce actually gives us less value for the money. So what we need to do is how do we transform, how do we enhance the market value of these produce by transforming them into either semi-finished products or finished products. And that is what we need to look at. That's what NIPC actually promotes. We are trying everything within us. We are working with relevant NDAs to enhance the capacity of Nigeria to attract capital into that area. As we all know, infrastructure, we have infrastructural challenge. Nigeria is going to be burdened about a lot of factors that hinders our capacity to attract capital. As the earlier speaker spoke, internal capital also is a little bit scarce to come by also. So NIPC is working with a number of agencies to bring out where are the funds available, where are the investments, what are the opportunities that are there for investors to annex. We are working with Payback, for instance, now to look at how do we enhance, how improve our ease of doing business factor. We are working with the state governments to also enhance the capacity of the state governments to improve their capacity, their strength to support businesses at that level. Because it is how much we are able to make the businesses strong, the existing businesses, how strong we are able to make them to be, that they can actually promote Nigeria competitiveness. They can now attract investors into those areas that we are deficient in. One big thing we are doing now in NIPC is actually putting this information together in such a form that it will be readily available to investors. So we have on our website a lot of information that investors can actually use to benchmark the states, and decide which of the states best suits their investment needs. So on our website you have the a book we call the Book of States that profiled each state and highlights the investment opportunities in each state. In this new edition also, we want to highlight the intervention funds. The intervention funds at each MDAs at the federal level. These are information that most MDAs don't even know exist. How do they access information? How do they access the existing intervention funds that are available? They don't even know whether these intervention funds, where they are existing, what are the processes for them to harness these opportunities. So we are coming out with a booklet that will highlight the intervention funds and the processes by which they would be able to access the funds. We will also work with Smith to ensure that the SMEs are empowered on how they can package their investments to be able to access some of these funds. Another big factor that we are working with CBN on is how do we increase the information landscape about the collateral register. We all know that a big challenge the SMEs have is about access to funds and their inability to provide the needed collateral to support the fund that they do require. We are working with CBN to highlight this register and also encourage most of our SMEs to access this fund. When the Southwest presenter was speaking, she mentioned the Lakaji corridor. This is a corridor that actually provides the link between the Southwest, basically Lagos, and the Northwest into Niger Republic. This is a corridor that we need to strengthen and ensure that we enhance the capacity of Nigerian SMEs to be able to harness the strengths that are inherent in the corridor. A lot of activities we are doing in NIPC that borders on information presentation, information collaboration with MDAs. We've been very, very active with NAC in ensuring that the necessary information that is required by investors are made available unto them. Thank you.
The list we had earlier on from the states in terms of initiatives and the results is access to information, and that's what the National Action Council on Africa Continental Free Trade Area they've done for us by creating that platform so that you can sort of like have access to all these things and you can see how these things will solve the various issues we have enumerated earlier on, so that by the next time we meet, then we'll be talking about results, effective results, utilizing some of the things mentioned here. I think I'll go to my very good friend from AFEX, who is from the private sector, but wearing two hats, I guess, a private sector player, but at the same time playing in both private and the public sector. So I would be asking you this question. I mean, the financial sector is critical because we know that you play along that line, even though you do some bit of commodity trading. Critical to ensuring the success of AfCFTA. How ready is the financial sector in Nigeria and the related sectors? I mean, in your own case, commodity trading. So how ready are the various interlinked sectors in Nigeria to harness technology and innovation to facilitate its implementation? And what measures can we expect from these sectors towards the implementation of Pan-Africa financial systems or payment systems? I think there was something that was mentioned earlier. And how do we facilitate cross-border transactions? And what sort of regulatory reforms, what sort of things would you like to see? I mean, a private sector player playing in this field, what sort of regulations? Now we have some pseudo regulators here that have spoken about the various interventions. Now you as a private player in this industry trying to serve the national and subnational. So what sort of reforms would you like to see so that we can take some of these things forward? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. There's 5 questions that you put in there, so I'll try my best to answer as quickly as possible. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having us. Quite frankly, when it comes to agricultural investment, I think, or at least trading and financing, for us, it comes down to de-risking the whole sector. And every measure that we take in place is how can we bring more and provide more transparency into the sector to allow investors comfort to bring us their capital and ensure that they're going to get a return on their finance. So when we look at that, for us at AFEX, it starts with data and knowing who the end user or end obligor is. So whether it's a smallholder farmer, an SME, or a large trading institution, what sort of historical data and track record do we have about them, and what sort of credit rating do we give them internally to ensure that we're actually going to be able to recoup our money after we provide loans to them on that basis. Second is the importance is insurance. So what sort of insurance schemes do we have in play that ensure that no matter what risks that take place in the business, we're actually going to be able to get a return on the financing as well. And lastly, when it comes to digitization, AFEX is very strong on that. Our electronic warehouse receipt system is the backbone of all the transactions that take place on our platform. This is the actual digital receipt of every sack of grain that's brought into our warehouse that then becomes converted to an electronic receipt that's now tradable. And so this gives investors transparency. Since it's on a platform, they can see the quality of the grain that was purchased, the standards, the parameters that it meets, and then allows them to make a risk-adjusted investment into that commodity. But what that does is that allows us to pool investors from all across capital market players and give them the visibility and transparency to actually invest into our products and onto our platform. Taking a step back on a macro level in terms of what we want to see, it boils down to regulation. Regulation and a framework that investments can actually take place. So when you're actually dealing with commodity trading, enforcement of contracts, standards of measurements, it becomes important, especially as you go internationally and you're trading with different parties, counterparties across various regions. Secondly would be more of a focus on targeted investments. So we're happy to see more special agricultural processing zones beginning to take place and take shape, because we know if we want to do business successfully, it has to be done on an ecosystem level and not just on an individual trade level. Lastly, it comes down to access to finance. But here we're looking for more patient capital, more blended finance. So state-run development banks, bringing them into the play, helping them understand that investments into like infrastructure projects, state corridors that was discussed earlier, ports, long-term infrastructure investments are going to require very patient investors that are looking for delayed return on their funds. So in some form of blended capital is going to be essential. Lastly is that how do we then monitor and evaluate and get feedback on all these policies that we then implement, so that we continuously learn from our mistakes, grow, and then improve and do better going forward. Thank you.
To the representative from BOI, Madam on the last right towards my right. I mean, the first speaker spoke about, getting companies to having access to initiatives such as factoring, and I'm sure in Bank of Industry, you want to be the bank to industries, even though yes, some of those entities might start as SMEs, but of course you want to see them grow and become big players, regional players or continental players, so that they can take the opportunities offered by AfCFTA. So the last question, which incidentally will come to you, is, how do we increase access to finance to the various stakeholders, especially from subnationals, to jumpstart the achievement of the various objectives as agreed in the goals, of the AfCFTA value chain? How do we increase the competitiveness of our various businesses through funding and provision of needed finance towards making them regional and continental players, so that they can start having access to things like you mentioned earlier? So how do you sort of increase their capacity to take advantage of all these things? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Looks like you read my mind because that's exactly what I plan to speak on. Competitiveness, capacity, costs, collateral, and of course, credibility of the individuals and the businesses that are going to borrow. What are we doing? We're already positioned to make sure that we increase the capacity and the competitiveness of businesses in Nigeria. That's what we have been doing. However, we keep innovating on a regular basis through the ways and means through which we administer disbursed funds, process loans, applications. Working with the subnationals at the state level, we have partnered with a whole lot of state governments on a matching fund scheme. One of the presenters made mention of that. It hasn't really worked as magically as we had expected it to work. And that's why I want to talk about it today. What do we do? What has been going wrong? Pre-borrowing, during, and post-borrowing. What is happening to MSMEs that majority are still failing? Why are we not yet industrialized? Have we looked at what it takes for somebody to set up a business in Nigeria? As an entrepreneur, as a manufacturer, as a processor? What are those things that are not going right, that must be put in place? A lot has been talked about infrastructure. Yes, infrastructure is there. What about their capacity to carry on? They start off very well, but midway things change. We cannot but accept the fact and the reality that we are import dependent for almost everything, the technology, and in most cases for manufacturers, the raw materials. You make funds available, yes, they borrow, they bring in these things. How long can they sustain their manufacturing activities? FX rate changes tomorrow, everything goes kaput. Profit is eroded. So what are we doing? I think it is time for us to start looking at ways we can invest in developing those things that will take us away from importation of most of our raw materials. Tissue paper, the rolls must be imported. The packaging materials, the chemicals must be imported. Coronavirus happens. Lockdown happens. Shuts down production. Europe shuts down production. Nigeria is locked. We can't continue to produce because basic things that we can ordinarily invest in to make sure that we continue and sustain our production is cut off completely. It's about time we change the way we are investing in MSMEs by providing them those things they require that can sustain them over a period that we have comparative advantage in. This is the crux of the matter. When we move away from there, how do they meet the conditions to borrow? In agro-processing, for example, you either go big or you go home. Why? Cost of feed, for example, is very high. Insecurity has caused a lot of people not to have the raw material to process certain agro-produces into semi-final or final produces. What are we doing about that? I'm happy that my brother from Nexim Bank and the rest, NIPs, everybody has spoken of what they are doing. We have to move faster than we are moving right now. The cost of production in Nigeria is the highest, according to Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, from the interview she granted, against Africa itself and against the rest of the world. What are we doing about it? Somebody talked about multiple taxation, overlap of a lot of policies at the state, the subnational levels. What are we doing to entrepreneurs? If somebody wants to borrow, this person needs to provide a collateral. I'm telling you practically what happens to people. The cost of borrowing is very high. Yes, the interest rate may be low
for us in particular, we are giving long-term facilities. However, the cost of perfecting the collaterals, even obtaining the collateral, is still very high. I'm speaking now as an advocacy matter that government needs to look into that. The frustration of obtaining certain documents is still very high, from registration to taxation. We need to look at all of that. Somebody now finishes production, sustaining it, and time to export. From farm to factory to ports, what happens in between? Transportation, insecurity, bad roads, and all of that. These add to the cost. How many trailers do we see fall along the roads? Along the Benue Nasarawa axis, fruits all the time, wasting because trucks are falling. What are we doing about all those things? People can borrow, there is funds. NIBC just told us there are a lot of intervention funds that people don't even know about, and incentives that they can take advantage of. What am I saying tonight or this evening to all of us? It is time for us to bring our collaborative effort to the table. Sectoral preferences for the subnationals. What are we going to invest in? We must put it together and channel funding to that. That way it makes it easy for the MSMEs to borrow and be able to sustain their businesses and be able to feed the big companies. I guess Build Up is ready. Our funds are available. We are ready to talk with anybody who is ready to do the big thing, and Nigeria will be better for it for after. Thank you very much.
Well, I understand there's just one question, and it's been we're going to take just one question, please, because of time. I don't know if you can use just one very short question for that.
Because of our population, because of the active nature of our population, and the economy, Nigeria is very attractive, and infrastructure projects are natural projects that are handling traffic and very profitable. And international finance firms can readily accept funding for Nigerian infrastructure projects, roads, ports, airports, and some other infrastructure projects that require funding. In fact, most Nigerian funds get out because of constraints with respect to the laws established, especially the financial. So I'm advising an amendment to our pension fund law so that banks can accept pension funds so that they can fund infrastructure projects for the long term, because our bank cannot fund long-term projects. This will actually help to improve our infrastructure. That's point number two. Government as a matter of urgency and necessity. To achieve that, government as a matter of urgency and necessity, improve on our credit rating so that international companies can, and Nigeria can be attractive for such kind of companies. And government should also sanitize the exchange rate regime, because our exchange rate, the one exchange rate or multiple exchange rate, is not really doing well for us. As a lot of international companies that are even within Nigeria are finding it difficult to fund their imports for the purpose of production. So these are things that I think should be addressed both by the government and the Thank you very much.
The National Pension Commission is actually doing something about it. But I guess the other comments have been well taken note of, and I'm sure the National Action Committee will take a further look at that. So, closing thoughts, 10 seconds by each of the panelists. What would you leave this August gathering with the subnationals? If they want to go home with one thing or one takeaway, from your institution in 10-15 seconds, what would that be for them?
I think, permit me with apologies, but I think now that I mean, I'm looking at time, but I would imagine that you may want to have some kind of discussions with them, at least get their numbers and so on. That may be better value than the 10 seconds. Do we agree?
Yes.
Okay. So just allow them to calm down, but don't go away. You can close the door. Make sure you get their numbers before they go.
Okay. So
you can just call it.
Yeah, I mean, just to leave, I mean, it will be extended to maybe like 30 seconds or 1 minute. Just your closing thoughts, if they are to leave with something to their respective states, what should that be? Thank you very much.
Okay, just as a closing thought, and just to reinforce the issue of investment, I didn't mention that, but the bank has introduced what we call joint project preparation facility. We noticed that project failed because they fail from the conceptual stage. Not enough money and investment is done in project preparation. So what we're trying to do, we have a joint facility with AfCFTA, and the idea is that big projects, big infrastructure projects, because most of those projects are not bankable on the face value when they come. So the idea of the joint project preparation facility is to put money to do the pre and feasibility studies that will be bankable and viable, that will attract the investment. So this, as a closing thought, you can look into it.
Thank you very much. I would stress the need that we need to build on regional competitiveness. I will stress that. Let's try and come together as a region, look at our competitiveness, the strengths in each of the regions, and pull our forces together and bring investment into the regions. The stronger the regions become, the better for the states. Let's try as much as possible to come up with innovative ideas that will strengthen us collaboratively and collectively, rather than going into what I will call jamboree trips, trying to market our individual states. We can be stronger by marketing our regions rather than marketing individual states. Secondly, I would say that it is also very important that each state have fiscal incentives that will complement the federal fiscal incentives. The incentives are there at the federal level, but what is the state ready to give to complement the investors when they come into their region? It's not enough you saying that you give them free land, even when we all know that the land are not actually free when they come to you to pick the lands. What are the other incentives that you are ready to give to support them, to make them more competitive in your state? Regional competitiveness, I would say.
Thank you. So I think the free trade agreement is honestly just a piece of paper. It's nothing if people do not actually take advantage of it and act. So my encouragement would be for everybody to use this as a clarion call, to galvanize stakeholders and bring everyone to the table and make targeted investments in light of the opportunity that's about to come.
For me, there are great opportunities everywhere in Nigeria. We can all be strong, local, states, subnational, nationally, if we pay close attention to what is important and focus on it without paying lip service to it. Bank of Industry is available to support any entrepreneur, any state, any region, with whatever it will take for the entrepreneurs to access financing. My name is Ogo Ifeoma-Kabogu, and my phone number is 0803 314 0802. I take that again. 0803 314 0802. We are available to talk with you. Thank you very much.
A big round of applause for all our panelists. Thank you very much for attending the session today. So I think I'll call on the head of the National Action committee to give us his closing remarks, and also thank our panelists for a very wonderful job done today. Thank you.
Yeah. So, in closing, first of all, dear panelists, thank you very much for the very insightful presentations, and thank you all for your participation for the full day. Some people have been here since 8 a.m. So this is it's been a very long day for some. So thank you very much. Thank you for the breakout sessions. And I think what we've done with the breakout session today is try to define and enlighten ourselves on what each person is doing. That is the very first step, and hear from what is possible. Tomorrow we will get some more presentations. We're expecting the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning to give the keynote address tomorrow. We're expecting the Governor of Jigawa State to come as well tomorrow. So we will hopefully start early tomorrow, listen to them and build more information. But once we do that, we then go into additional breakout sessions to actually then start to think about what problem are we trying to solve from an export perspective. How are we going to start tackling all these issues that we have identified, and which are we going to prioritize? What are we going to borrow from other people? What are the linkages that we will further? These are the conversations that we're going to have tomorrow. Yes, at the state level, at the regional level, and what do we need to bubble up to the center? So these are all the things that we're going to do tomorrow, and then we'll continue again on the third day. But at this point is to say thank you very much to all of you.